what's right and wrong, and they'll do whatever the state says, believe whatever the state says, and we will have lost this nation.
The main physician, who'd been really awful the whole time, he came into the room and he closed the door behind him, and he said, "You will consent to these tests, I will take her."
You might as well arrest me now, because you are not going to tell me in the United States of America I cannot spank my child. He just told me to stand up and put my hands behind my back, and he arrested me in front of 2 of my sons.
And this really is where parents have to stand up and say, now, that's our responsibility. We want to keep it. We're going to keep it. We're not going to give it to anybody else, and we're not going to let anybody take it away from us. And that's what this amendment is all about.
For parents, the issue is you need to get involved. Because as you sit back, as Edmund Burke said, the only thing that's necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing, good people to do nothing.
Parents should be engaged in their rightful responsibility of raising their children.
This is not a political issue. This is not a Republican or a Democrat, or black or white. This is an issue for all of us.
The parents have a duty from God to care for their children, to provide for their children, and to rear their children, and to educate their children.
This is a family matter. It's a matter that affects families and children.
I think the people who wrote our Constitution, if they had a chance to speak about this now, would certainly be in favor of this particular amendment.
We all need to rise up and put these political affiliations aside and understand this is the greater good for our country, for our families, because if we lose our children, we lose our country, we lose our world.
All right, that's The Child coming out in November. Be a powerful documentary or movie. I don't know what it's going to be, but this is serious stuff going on here. And now I just had a friend who's been on the show a couple of times, got his child taken away for a year because he spanked his child. And his son, who's 9, was at the playground with the girls and was pulling his pants down. And his dad said, "Don't pull your pants down again or you're going to get a spanking. We don't do that at the playground." And what did his son do? I mean, it's kind of funny that his son did it, but he pulled his pants down again, so his dad spanked him, and guess what? He didn't pull his pants down again. And, his mom, the child's mom came in and accused his dad of leaving marks and stuff like that, and there were none. And he got his child taken away for a whole year, and this is traumatic for this child. That's more abuse than you can imagine on that child by him not being able to see his dad than his dad disciplining him. So now what does a kid know about? What does he know? He can pull his pants down at the playground and his dad will get in trouble. It's a sad situation that's taking place. And so people, you need to stand up. If you don't stand up for other people, nobody's going to stand up for you. And it's an important thing to do. And what does it take? You just need to have your ears out there listening. And when you hear something that's wrong for somebody that you know, you need to start figuring things out. Give me a call. I'll help with that in any way I can and get you to the right people. And you know, it's worse, you know, it's happening with our families, but the state is also going in and putting people in psych wards when they complain about the government. You go into the police office and say, hey, this person did this, and it was a government official. They'll put you in a 72-hour hold. And I had 3 friends now that's happened to, where the government, and then they put them in for longer, and there's nothing wrong with these people, nothing at all. It's amazing what happens. So we got a problem here, and this is why it's important to have good judges and have some oversight for our judiciary, which is there's very little oversight. As a matter of fact, the only practical oversight that's left right now is the election process, and that's trying to be taken away from us too. And so in that vein, you get to vote. So I've brought in a candidate for judge in the 10th Judicial District, seat 3, and that's Chris Penwell. And Chris, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
running for judge, I mean, that's a very important position. There's a lot of power in that judge seat, a lot of power. And sometimes I wonder at the motives of people running for judge. So what kind of, because I've seen judges use that as a whipping board, and I'm here and I can do what I want. And they even say that, I don't have to follow the law. I've heard them say that. So what's your motivation for running?
Well, you really hit on it. I've been a trial attorney for 25 years, so I've made my living in the courtroom. I've seen probably hundreds of judges, and I'd like to say that they all keep their ego out of it and just do their job, but unfortunately, I think it's the exception when you see a judge that has the humility and the integrity to just really stick to what does the law, apply the law, and not stick his own personal or sometimes political bias into the decisions that he or she makes.
Well, I mean, that's really a powerful statement to say it's the exception more than the rule, that judges behave that way.
Yeah, I really see two things, either judges whose ego takes over, and you're right, there is a lot of power and authority, there's not that much accountability. I mean, people say, well, isn't there the Court of Appeals? Well, the Court of Appeals can't possibly act as a backstop to all the mistakes and errors and overstepping that judges do. So I see either judges with ego, or at the other end of the spectrum, sometimes I see judges with no backbone who let attorneys sort of game the system.
Right.
And they will.
Right.
And won't put their foot down and
Sure.
say, you're going to follow the rules of civil procedure, or you're going to be sanctioned, or there's going to be some kind of consequence for that. So I see both ends of the spectrum, and it's just not that often that I see what I'd call a really good judge.
Well, in our discussion, of course, we're going to want to know more about you, your judicial philosophy, but also this is still going to be a time to educate you, the voters out there, as to kind of some of the procedures and processes that take place, and an atmosphere, I guess, of the courtroom. That's kind of what we've been discussing right now. But I don't want to dwell on that too much, but just one other thing I've noticed with the judiciary and some judges, they just some of them, they think in order to have control of that courtroom, they need to be mean. They need to come in there with an attitude and, I'm in charge here. They don't say that, but all right, you're up. What's going on here? I mean, just this almost yelling and anger in their voice. And I've stood before judges and I said, well, Your Honor, I'm not trying to be difficult here because you're already angry at me and I don't know why, but here's what we're trying to accomplish, and trying to get them to arm down, and ratchet it down a little bit, because I almost think they use it as an intimidation tactic for you to go away and not say something. But
you see judges that are tyrants, and I mean, think about that. I mean, people are coming in. We're talking about a district court level judge. That's
right.
what I'm running for.
Right.
Not a court of appeals, but a district court level judge. And this hits people where they live. So they're coming in with an issue having to do with their personal lives or their business or their property, and it's life or death to them. I mean, it's a very, very important matter. And you've got a judge that rules the courtroom. I mean, there's nothing you can do. The parties are looking to that judge, for some form of justice. The attorneys have to be deferential. The jury's dependent on the judge. I mean, the judge has all the power, and you see judges really abuse that in not being respectful, in not listening very well, and just sort of telling people, well, now here's how it's going to be. This is what's going to happen. And people, of course, they feel intimidated because you've got a judge that's going to decide the outcome of your case. So, yeah, it's really, it's a problem.
Well, I want to get a little bit here now into kind of your background, family background and personal background. You've already said 25 years as a trial attorney and seen been before hundreds of judges, but just tell us a little bit more about yourself personally.
Sure. I've been married for 26 years. I have 3 kids, one who's graduated from college, one at the U. and one who's still in grade school. Lived in Mahtomedi for 23 years.
Okay. So you're not far from the White Bear Studios here then?
No,
Okay.
It was probably less than a 10-minute drive to get here tonight.
Right.
As I say, I've been a trial attorney for 25 years, representing mostly small businesses and protecting property owners against overregulation by the government.
Mm-hmm.
I've authored a number of articles on wind turbines, non-compete agreements, and then Fifth Amendment, that's the takings clause of the U.S. Constitution.
Sure.
So that's what
well, you have a wide variety. Now, and of course your trial background, that's what judges do.
Yes.
I mean,
right.
And you got to know how to run a trial.
It's really critical that anybody who's going to be a judge have courtroom experience. A judge, particularly in a trial setting, has to make on-the-spot decisions about rules of evidence, rules of procedure. You just cannot learn this job the first time you put that black robe on.
Right. No, I've sat enough. It'd be very difficult. So I'm glad to hear you have that experience. Now we have we're going to have callers, people calling in now and then. So we have a caller on the line. Caller, do you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I have a question, and then I will state my question, and then I'll hang up and I'll listen.
Wait 1 second. Nathan, can you turn the volume up here a little more? I can't hear it now. Ralph, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to know his view on the judges now that are sidestepping the constitutional law and are using either case law, making up their own laws, and what your view is on this here. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, certainly the U.S. Constitution is preeminent. It is the supreme law of the land. Judges need to uphold the preeminence of the Constitution, and then secondarily, they simply need to apply the laws as passed by the legislature. You do see laws or judges that are sidestepping that, and to me, it really goes back to the values and the principles that underlie the Constitution. Our founding fathers had a set of values and beliefs that they were guided by. Those being that we're one nation under God, that we are created free to pursue our lives, to pursue our businesses, to own property, with minimal interference and regulation from the government, that with that freedom comes personal responsibility, that there are certainly laws necessary to maintain justice in a free and ordered society, and when those laws are broken, there have to be consequences. Those kind of values and beliefs that guided the founding fathers, a judge has to be anchored in those values and beliefs, or ego will start to take over. They will start to inject their personal and political bias into their decisions. There just isn't enough accountability to stop a judge from doing that unless he or she is firmly grounded in those values and beliefs. So that's my commitment, is to stay anchored in those values and beliefs, and in that way I do believe that I will have the humility and the integrity to uphold the preeminence of the Constitution and apply the laws as written.
Now, one thing the caller brought up was case law, and I think one of his concerns is that judges rely too much on case law, and case law is superseding our statutes, and then the statutes don't have any meaning, and the case law ends up being the law. And this is something a lot of people don't understand, the process of the statute versus case law, and which law are we really under? You know?
Sure. Yeah, you hear the word precedent,
Right.
and judges are supposed to follow precedent. And if you want me to get into this, there is statutory law that is passed by the legislature. Then there's case law that's based on common law, and common law would be negligence, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You have a duty not to do things that would cause harm to others or their property,
Mm-hmm.
Carelessly or knowingly cause harm to others or their property. So there's a body of case law that has developed around this concept of negligence.
Okay.
And you know, sometimes a statute will cover certain types of behavior. There's criminal statutes, there's civil statutes, and then there's the common law. And I think the concern is that